Hello everyone, my name is Diego Alfonso. I'm one of your hosts with the Florida Aviation Network, broadcasting live and in the clear from the Florida Air Museum at the Lakeland Airport in Florida. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of FUN Fly-In and Exposition. Today, our guests are Gary Rower. Did I mention that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And John Herman. That wasn't easy. I'm just like dying to get into the meat of things here. And we're going to do that in a minute. But before that, what I'd like to ask both of you, I'm going to start with you, is to give us kind of a background, the aviation background. In other words, when was the first time that Gary said, I want to be a pilot? I want to take it from there all the way to where you're now.
I was just a farm kid in the farm country in New York State.
Okay.
And I was 4 years old when I turned to the little girl from the farm across the road and said, someday I'm going to fly. And that was 40 plus years ago, and actually I've been in the cockpit for 40 years. And along the way I started in a cub, in a grass strip, in an apple orchard. I've flown F-16s, I've flown airliners, and now I'm here with the Tempest Steerman for the show.
Couldn't get a better airplane than a Tempest.
Yeah.
Now, than a Steerman. What was that? I can understand being a pilot, but what made you say, I want to be an aerobatic pilot? Where did that transition took place? And I know you said you flew F-16, so I guess it had something to do with that training.
Well, you know, I actually took my first aerobatic duel when I was about 17 years old. And so flying upside down has always been interesting, and then dogfighting and bomb dropping and that sort of thing, you know, it's a bit of an adrenaline rush. And so when I bought the Steerman, it was just kind of a natural extension of what had been going on for years.
A little bit slower.
A little bit slower.
But basically the same thing.
You know, a loop's a loop.
Hey, that's how it goes. All right, John. Why don't you give us I'm going to ask you the same thing. Give us a little bit of background on your aviation and how, if at all, that kind of put you where you are today.
Sure. I remember as a kid, the county airport where I grew up on Father's Day offered penny a pound rides. And my dad took us out to the airport, and that was my first airplane ride. And from that point, I really got involved in aviation when I moved to Alaska in the late 70s, and did some flying up there and worked in several aviation companies. And over the years I've been more on the manufacturing side rather than the flying side like Gary.
Okay.
But I've worked for companies such as Unison Industries and Superior Air Parts and Champion and now Tempest.
Great. Gary, I'm going to go to you here now. I know Actually, I know you're the master of the Steerman. I mean, I've seen you do that, and I respect you a lot for that, and I also envy you a little bit, but we're not going to go there. Why a Steerman? Why is that your choice aircraft?
Well, you know, it kind of goes back to those farm kid days. I was 16 and I saw my first Steerman. You know, I was out in a cub and we landed somewhere, and I went, someday I'm going to get one of those. And it took me 30 years. The Steerman is just a classic biplane. It says air show, and it's an honest airplane. It does the same thing every time. It's a treat to fly, and it's a treat to show off to your friends.
Yeah, and the history.
Oh, absolutely.
The
72
history.
Years old.
The history behind the airplane. There's a lot of pilots walking around, and some of those that have gone west, that those were the first ride.
Absolutely.
Was the Steerman, and that thing's still around. I mean, it's still flying and going strong on top of that. Let me see what my notes is here. Now, your performance, you know, when you look at it from the ground, it looks so easy and it looks so lazy, and it's almost like a ballet type of thing. Go ahead and talk us through that.
Well, you know, I get that comment a lot at air shows where they go, it's beautiful, it's just a ballet in the sky. Yeah. If you look carefully while I'm flying, you'll see the control surfaces are going stop to stop. That airplane weighs 3,000 pounds, and it's a stable trainer. It doesn't want to do aerobatics. Yeah. So it's taken every bit of controls that the airplane has to actually make it do that ballet in the sky.
Exactly. And I guess I'm going to talk to you now from the standpoint of a pilot and a mechanic, because I'm also a mechanic. Cables have play. So in order for maneuvering in that kind of airplane and making it look so constant, there's a lot of anticipation in your controlled movement to make that happen.
Well, there is, and because it's a 1930s design, and so it really doesn't want to do that stuff, and you do lead into the maneuvers. There are a lot of maneuvers, the inside Humpty and the outside Humpty, where I'm actually having to fan the rudder, and you don't notice that unless you're looking for it.
Okay. I understand that you have Tempest on the Steerman. Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been using Tempest products for quite some time, and I got to know John a little bit, and we talked about putting the Tempest Iridium plugs into the Steerman. And I have to tell you, I'm going to spend the whole show season documenting my fuel burn and the changes in the performance, but I was so impressed with the performance change that I got by switching to those plugs that we had to dress the airplane up and bring it here to Sun and Fun to show it off, because it is a phenomenal difference.
Well, I've been hearing a lot of that stuff going around. And, it's like anything, when your life depends on performance, you got to go with the best. I mean, there's no other way to do it.
And that's why we're here together.
And what do you have to say about those?
Well, Tempest was actually founded in 2001, and we are manufacturers of a number of products, but the line that specifically that Gary uses is our spark plug line. And in 2009, we acquired that line from Unison Industries. It's the old Autolite spark plug line. And we acquired that line, made some improvements to the spark plug, and today we feel we've got the best spark plug on the market. And along with the other products such as the oil filters, vacuum pumps, and fuel pumps that we manufacture.
That's cool. And Gary, what happened when you first tried this new product? I mean, did you feel any difference? Is there something you want to tell us about that?
Well, and I'm excited about the product because, I've flown the last 10 years in my Steerman. I'm the only one that starts the engine, other than perhaps my son. That engine started for the last 10 years, third blade every time. I put the new plugs in, 1.5 turns, boom, starts. Hot start, 1 turn. It's smoother. I'm just floored by the difference.
And how about in the wintertime? Have you tried that too?
Well, I haven't really had a chance yet because we've had some fairly warm weather in Georgia. So,
okay.
So we'll see, but it's just an incredible change.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize that I'm a mechanic, and the quality and the intensity of the fire in the cylinder determines a lot about what that engine is going to do, and not only the performance, but the preservation of the moving parts that are in direct contact with that fire, like the top of the piston and the bottom of the valves.
Yeah.
And that is another area of consideration. Now, what is all the excitement about spark plug resistant? What can you tell me about that?
Okay, so that's a fairly new issue within the aviation community, probably in the last 4 or 5 years. And we recognize that the resistor design that we use in our plug is a new and improved design. It's actually an assembly that's manufactured for us by the Fram Group, and it's a fired-in, what we call a fizz, or fired-in suppressed design. And essentially it's a fancy word for the 3 main components within the spark plug, including a resistor, that are heated up to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're fused into one piece. And the advantage that that gives us is consistent resistance throughout the life of the plug. So our plugs are guaranteed to never exceed 5,000 ohms of resistance, and if they do, we'll replace them. And the resistance issue has resulted as a study on magnetos, the effects of magnetos, and we found that high resistance can cause major problems within the magneto in severe cases. And a lot of times the magneto is blamed for something that it's really not responsible for. It was caused by high resistance in spark plugs.
Now, I've never seen the plug, but here's my question. If I'm looking at a Tempest plug and I'm looking at another plug, what will I see different?
On the outside of the plug, the best way to identify a Tempest plug, number one, is by the part number. It has a U preceding the part number. But the biggest thing is it looks like a stainless steel plug. Now it's not. It's nickel plated, where most of the other plugs on the market are CAD plated. So it's the other plugs are sort of dull in color, and the Tempest plug is shiny.
Shiny.
Yeah. Internally, it's totally different, but on the outside, that would be the major difference.
Now, I understand that the plug, although a great product and Tempest product, but there's more to it than just plugs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
With regard to the Tempest products?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2003, we started manufacturing a line of oil filters, and one of the unique features of our oil filter is a magnet. We've installed a ring magnet in every filter, and the purpose of that is to filter out ferrous particles which can be of a size that would normally go through the media and back into the engine. And typically camshaft wear is one of the big issues with engine wear, and the magnet will catch those particles and prevent them from going back into the engine. So that's one of the unique features of our oil filter. And then we have a line of dry air pumps, and several years ago we introduced the Tornado 3000, which was the first new dry air pump design in 30 years in the industry, and that features a unique front end to prevent oil from getting into the pump, and it also has a wear indicator port on the back so that a mechanic can look inside and determine how much life is left on the pump. So the customer gets full use of the pump and is still able to get it off the aircraft before it fails.
That's interesting. You know, I was just thinking about the oil filter. Why didn't I think of that? Because in turbine engines, you have the magnet thing, but that
Correct.
picks up from the oil that is outside the filter.
Correct.
And I understand yours picks it up inside the filter.
That's correct.
And prevents it from going outside.
That's correct.
That.
And some people used to put a strap around the filter with a magnet, and the only issue with that design is those magnets have a heat rating of 180 degrees where they start to lose their magnetism.
Exactly.
And the magnet that we use has a heat rating of 450. So it's going to function throughout the entire engine operation.
If your oil heats up to 450, you're going to have other problems.
Exactly. Exactly. That's correct.
All right, John. Gary.
Yeah.
Now, that's the man that makes the thing and sells the thing. How the man that uses the thing thinks about that.
Well, you know, I've already touched on this a little bit, and I'm, like I said, I'm going to document the entire show season. I figure somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 hours of flying. I'm already seeing lower cylinder head temperatures, higher power, and lower fuel burn to a significant measurable percentage. With a 450, It's in gallons per hour, and I'm floored by the difference, but I want to document the whole show season so that next year we can come back and talk about
I'll be
this,
here.
and we'll be able to show you.
I'm going to keep tabs.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Yes.
So
Now, John, you talked about the product, but I understand you also provide services. Tempest, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we provide marketing services to various companies. Our primary customer, or the people that make most of our products, is Aero Accessories, which is up in Gibsonville, North Carolina. We do have a manufacturer in Lakeview, Michigan that also manufactures a line of starters and alternators and electrical components. And we have a couple of other manufacturers that make a line of tools for us. And what Tempest, the marketing group, does is we provide marketing services for those companies, and we put everything under that Tempest brand.
Well, Gary and John, it's been a real pleasure to have you here and meet you for the first time. As a mechanic, I'm intrigued by what you have described today as far as the plugs and the filter. Really got my attention. I'm going to dig into that. I definitely would. I wish they could do that for cars too. And you, very little to say because I know what you do and I enjoy watching what you do, and I'm going to do that today. What time?
4:45 this afternoon.
4:45 this afternoon out there. Pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to see you.
Wish you lots of luck, and wish you lots of luck with your services. And thank you so much for joining us. My name is Diego Alfonso with the Florida Aviation Network, and we will be back very soon.